you fought a lot of amazing battles in 2016 Olympics. So you beat the let's see, the world number 4 in the quarterfinals. It's like a replay every single Olympics. You're all the
I told
people
you
you
I
have to
got
fight.
terrible
It's
draws.
insane.
Terrible draws.
And then you're facing. This is where I was like watching this. I'm like, yeah, he's screwed. You faced the world number 1, the Georgian, in the.
By the way, for people who don't know, he beat me 5 times to my beating him once, and the one time I beat him was in London. And all other times he beat me by Ippon. And not by like a little throw, like he threw me on my head. At one point we were in Georgia. I'm fighting him in the final. I go to my teammate and I go, guess what? Make sure you watch this fight. Somebody's getting thrown for Ippon. This ain't match going the distance. And about a minute in, I tried to take his head off with a big Koshi Guromo, which is like a head and arm.
Mm-hmm.
He caught me and then threw me on my head and ended the match.
So first of all, we're watching the video of you again standing next to the guy leading up to your semifinal match. So here, if you win this, you're guaranteed a medal.
Yep.
But the chances of you winning, from my fan perspective, I was like, God damn it.
You and the rest of the world, except for me.
Except for you. What are you saying? You're talking to yourself here.
Yep.
What are you saying?
My name is Travis Stevens. I'm an Olympic champion. I will not be denied.
The Georgia is probably like, what the hell is this guy saying? What is he talking to himself? So he was probably ultra confident.
Yeah, had to be. The difference is I understood the last 5 times he beat me, I was purposely trying to throw him, not beat him. I wanted to find out if I could. Turns out I can't. But I don't need to throw him to beat him. I need to know how to not lose.
But you were still going for stuff here.
But all of my attacks drag him to the ground.
Yeah, drag him.
They're never standing on my feet. Which is a distinction that we talked about at the very beginning, right? Mm-hmm. You have throws where you're standing and throws where you're dropping. Every time I try to throw him standing, he throws me free pony. He picks me up and he throws me on my head, literally. So what I did is I just needed to get to that last 1 minute mark, which is what he does mentally in his own judo, where he changes into a panic and just tries to like do things that are uncharacteristic.
So you knew he's going to start panicking here as the match draws to close, and you both have a
penalty.
Shido
and actually
penalty.
Did we pass the point where I went for broke and I broke my rule?
Which one?
I went for a crazy foot sweep, like Ippon switch thing. I can't even remember what it's called because it's not used that often. And he actually landed on top of me, and some people wanted it to be called Ippon. But he had actually let go of the gi and was looking for the mat, so he didn't have any control, so they didn't award him a point. Yeah, and here we go. Now we're getting down into the... See, like, he's getting frustrated. Great.
Yeah.
I love it. Perfect. Second penalty. No big deal. We just got to get to the 1 minute mark. That's all we got to do.
So there's no panic here for you.
Nope, I'm right where I need to be. And look at... Now, if you go back into this match, I would love for somebody to go back and see how many times he did a drop right Ippon Seoinage. Probably never.
Yeah.
So why is he doing it now? Because he panics and he changes his judo at that 1 minute mark.
So
look how much I kept that grip.
Yeah, you have that grip this whole time. You have your left hand
walking him down.
You keep the grip as he's throwing.
Yeah.
Were you thinking choke as he drops or no? It's just kind of natural instinct.
Yeah. Because we drilled it. I spent 2 years drilling this transition.
And then so for people that don't do judo, jiu-jitsu, it's like really nice. Everything is nicely controlled to where you're keeping that gi under his chin. Like it's really tight control. Like it's very, like I guess it's drilling, but you're cognizant of the position of your wrist the whole time.
And you can tell based on like just years of doing it, whether it's under or it's not.
Right.
You can just feel the difference.
And it's probably, even if you wanted to stop that, it's very difficult because your whole time it's like.
Once it's under, it's almost impossible to stop.
for people who practice jiu-jitsu, don't practice judo, one of the very annoying things about judo is in order to do gi chokes, they have to be under the chin.
Yes.
Even though the kind of intense chokes you do work just fine
Yep.
over the chin. But
And the kicker here and why we practice this choke was because when you go back and watch all of the other matches, he always does this tripod when I try to do arm locks,
Yeah.
which is typically what I would do.
yeah,
And when I do that, he ends up sliding out and I end up falling off.
right. So you step up here with the choke. He does a tripod where he sticks his butt into the air, and you, dude, what's the name of this choke?
Bow and arrow.
No, but okay. But I mean, when you do from that position, is there a way this entry into the bow and arrow? I guess because you're doing
We refer to it in judo as a British strangle
British
when they're in that turtle position and you do that rolling
That roll.
motion.
Cool. And here, when you go into that, you can fall off of him, like you said, if you're going for an arm bar. But here, literally, because you have it under the chin really well, there's just a nice control.
And I've already planned on it being on his chin. That's why I've hooked the arm.
Yeah.
Right? It's already starting to go straight.
Probably this choke in the early stages, like a few frames before, feels like it, like you're safe. It's fine. Like the head will slip out or something like that.
Yeah. And that's why my left knee is up by his shoulder to keep that pressure down so that he can't posture it up.
When did you know you have this?
Oh,
Like right here.
I actually panicked right about here.
Was maybe his head could come out?
My hand, I tore the muscle in my palm because I was pulling so hard that I'm like, dude, he may not tap.
Yeah.
Like, is my hand just going to give out beforehand?
And there he
And
is.
we're right on this edge, right?
Yeah.
So, like, if we roll a little bit outside and I still don't have it, like, that ref could stop it.
Yeah.
And then I felt him tapping, and
Oh, he is he's heartbroken.
I felt
Surprised. There it is. The relief.
Olympic final. And he knew he lost an Olympic medal right there because he already knew that the Japanese guy was going to be his bronze that he never beats.
See but also he probably in his head was confident that he would be in the final.
Correct.
And so like this, he almost is surprised.
Yeah.
It's not supposed to happen this way.
And it's the second time it's happened.
And that's how you became an Olympic medalist. Man, that must be a great feeling. That must be a great feeling right here. Just like all the years of injuries, all of it. As fans that watch this too, it's like, holy shit, he actually did it.
And it's a packed stadium too. Not one empty seat.
Oh man. So I mean, what were you thinking here? You just focused on the next match?
Yeah. It took me maybe like a minute or so to like decompress and then like get back to like my normal state for the final.
So the final is against the Russian here. What can you say about your mindset? You're saying the exact same thing. Travis
Always.
Stevens, Olympic champion.
I will not be denied. Because I had felt like in London and throughout the years, I felt like I kept getting robbed. So I made sure in my mantra to add that little bit at the end to reassure myself that like they are not going to control the outcome of today. I'm going to control the outcome.
What did you know about the Russian?
Everything. And I honestly, I thought I'd won the Olympics right now. And I still do think that today. Just like mentally, when you think about it, that I've won, like, yeah, he threw me, but it was like a 1 in a million chance that worked for him. Like, come on.
So so it's not like you feel lucky to be in the final. It's like you
Again,
deserve to
remember,
be champ.
I'm anticipating the goal.
Yeah.
Like I'm past that.
Like,
Right?
there's a
Like,
confidence in the way you're moving and the way you're.
yeah. Like I have his sleeve. He's not breaking it. Like still walking him down, still going forward. Like I knew exactly how I was gonna beat him. And I developed the plan because when I was getting ready for Rio, we brought in a lot of the top Japanese players that weren't invited to the camp for the national team
Mm-hmm.
to Boston. So I had 4 people. 3 of them were on the national team. One of them had won the universities in Japan, all at 81 kilos. I only got thrown once during camp for a month.
Wow.
Like I was ready. I fucking slipped.
Where does it happen?
Right when he threw me. So if you let this play out really quick, there's a point right here where I'm going to come around his back and I'm kind of going to just Yoko Suteme, which means like a lateral drop. And I'm just going to bring him down to the floor, which isn't a throw right here.
Yeah.
It's more of like a takedown, right? I'm trying to get him to the ground because I want to burn him. He doesn't do Newaza.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to keep burning him. And you can see that like I get really close here. He just went a little too far to his side during this exchange. And like he's running. I'm like,
He's very wiry for an 81 kg player.
yeah.
There's not much like muscle on him.
But he uses his length and his leverage very well. And you can see like I'm really burning the clock here. Like I'm owning these exchanges more than I'm owning the Tachiwaza ones, the ones on our feet.
So you weren't trying to necessarily like submit him here or like really hard or like pin him. You were trying to break him a bit.
I'm doing both. I'm being overly physical. And to a lot of the BJJ people who are watching this, like they're like, oh, well, I would have done this. I would have done that. You've got to think like if that referee who's reffing the judo side of it looks at it for a couple seconds and is like, he's not really moving.
Yeah.
They'll stop it.
Yeah. So you're like, you understand judo.
Yeah.
What's called newaza groundwork. Like what because you're really showing it to the ref.
Yes. You have to show movement and progression. That hurt the forehead. Like, see, I threw that hand in there kind of hard.
Yeah.
Ripping it across his face just because.
I gotta tell you, there's a calm. Well, no, he does look a little broken, but the Russians have like this calmness. They're pretty good at.
Well, don't forget they've competed like this for
a long time.
Yeah, it's all he knows. And this is where I lose it. See how my knee hit the ground?
Yeah.
My knee wasn't supposed to touch the ground.
Yeah.
I was supposed to sit to my hip to bring him down. Something happened where my knee touched.
Yeah.
And it didn't happen in the first one. It just happened there. So like that, we never should have been in that predicament.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things where when you're looking at, sports for anybody who's trying to improve, you have to, when you're trying to improve, you've really got to ignore the ends of the spectrums, right? The oopsies and the they got lucky.
Mm-hmm.
And you only focus on the middle. Like the technique I was doing was perfectly sound.
Right.
It just happened that the one oopsie happened on the stage it shouldn't have happened on. And there's no amount of drilling that will ever like prevent that from happening.
And that's just
that's sports.
That's sports, especially the Olympics, especially judo when it's like one
you get one mistake.
Oopsie can just be your.
That's it.
That's it.
It really requires, and you have to wrap your head around the idea of like, if you want the ability to beat these people and throw these people, like you got to be willing to get thrown yourself.
Yeah.
Like this isn't boxing. There's no like, I'm going to stand in a place where he can't hit me and I can hit him. Because we have the gi and because they can grab it, they have just as much ability to throw you as you them.
So how'd you feel here? How long was the duration of you feeling upset that you didn't get the gold versus like...
Never felt it.
Never felt it. Just...
Because he didn't beat me.
Right.
Right. It's an important distinction because when I'm training and when I'm competing, like I understand that I take risks and I accept those consequences. That's why I take them.
Mm-hmm.
That's a consequence. That's not him being the better judo player that dominated a match and I didn't have an answer and then he threw me.
Mm-hmm.
Then I would be a little upset. Like when you're tired and somebody's coming at you and like you can't do anything about it, that's a shitty feeling.
Yeah.
You know?
And that wasn't this.
And that wasn't this. Like I accept losing when it's my fault.
Well, that was a hell of a story, man. So from 2008, 2012, just the sheer number of injuries, the weight cuts, all of that, the wanting to quit, the doubts. I'm sure you did not get, like, the fans probably started disappearing somewhere between the second and the third Olympics, like the support from
It did.
judo within the United States and just everybody, just
the
like
USOC tried to cut all my funding in 2015 and said, no, you're too old.
Yeah. So through all of that to win the medal, I mean, that's what the Olympics is about. Is there some, like, when you look back, does that seem like another person? Is this like another lifetime ago? Or like that's a hell of an accomplishment. How do you feel about the whole thing?
It's an interesting kind of predicament because there's like those cookie cutter answers about how proud you are and how grateful you are, but at the end of the day, it's not who you are. So that skill set and that mentality that, it took to accomplish that, that's who you are. And so this was just a stepping stone in who I am. So it's in the past to me. Like there's no shrine in my house that has like an Olympic medal in it. I can't remember last time I looked at it.
So you're saying like the all the stories, the skills along the way, that's like you right now sitting here is the shrine.
Yeah. The who you become along the journey is really what the prize is. Right? Like when you think about any of them, most of the people that, go through that depression after the games, it's because that is their shrine. Like that is who they've identified as. That is who they've told the world, the community, their friends, their family. That's how they've identified. I've identified as a person who perseveres, overcomes, and accepts challenges. So like all those things are just like, put in a suitcase off to the side and I'm on to the next great chapter thing that I'm trying to do.
And it's both sad and cool that very few people in the world get to experience what it's like to be you. I mean, this level of having gone through that journey.
Everyone has the opportunity to.
Yeah. I mean, I've done a few difficult things in my life, but I got to tell you, weight cuts and the sauna.
And I would tell people right now who are listening, like, don't go through that. And I think a lot of wrestlers, a lot of young judo players, a lot of young, like just combat sports people where weight classes are a thing, they almost take a sense of pride. Like when I hear them talking about like, oh, how much weight do you have to cut? Mm-hmm. If you have to cut a pound more, it's like you've accomplished more, like you're tougher.
Yeah.
Like you're not. Like there's no trophies for that.
You, whatever the reason, had a job to do and you got it done. And that is truly inspiring, no matter how hard. That there's a big, deep lesson to learn from that. Then you start getting to the specifics of whether you should weight cut or not. But if we don't, then most of the great things we have in this world, we wouldn't have. The reason we have many of the great things is because people did that weight cut. The equivalent of the weight cut for whatever the discipline, man.
There's a difference between having to do it because you have to and you get through it, than setting yourself up to do that because you think it's the cool thing or the thing you're supposed to be doing in order to be successful.
Yeah.
There are plenty of like 2-time Olympic medalist. I probably could have been a 2-time Olympic medalist had I not cut that much weight. I probably would have multiple world medals had I not cut that much weight because my body wouldn't have been that broken.
Yeah.
there's always the other side of it. So just when you're looking at it, like I just hear it in like young kids, even some of my own, like when you hear them talk about like where their weight's at, they almost take a sense of pride on how much they have to lose because they hear stories like this. And it's like, that's not the takeaway.
Yeah.
I did it because I had to. I was put in a situation where like I may not have gone to this games had I moved up to 90 kilos because I wouldn't have had time to grow into the division.
Mm-hmm. And then you get the job done.
And then you get the job done.
You're right. There's it's a very important difference, and that's also with sleep. That's what people talk to me about. There should not be any glorification of not sleeping.
Yes.
There should not be a glorification of cutting weight. But if that's on the way to your whatever is that fire inside you that you know needs to get done, like the job at hand, if you need to sacrifice in some of those ways, you get the job done.
Yes.
Yeah, and the weight cut is an interesting one because it's different. I mean, you could speak to this. There's different sports in which the weight is more important than others, and there's different levels to this game. I think at the level you operated in, that was probably essential.
Yeah.
Like there's huge games change completely from 81 kg to 90 kg.
It's a huge weight jump.
It's first of all, it's weight, but then the strategy, it's like so much changes, the height and all those kinds of things.
The physical, like people don't understand it, but the physical size of a 90 kilo judo player versus the physical size of an 81 kilo judo player, it's like putting a human in a human. Like there's enough space. It's not like, you know, you could stand next to your friend who's 180 pounds and you could be 160 and you guys could look identical.
Yeah.
It is different when both the 90 kilo, 100 kilo, and 81 kilo both have 6% body fat and they're cutting into the class.
And it always feels like there's more variety at 90 kilo because some of them are lanky and tall.
Yeah.
And
some are short and stocky.
Stocky. It's like 81 is more uniform, which but then the flip side of that is this is why I like in jiu-jitsu, again, amateur, competing against bigger guys. Like I love that more. I like cutting weight just so I'm slim. Like that's when I feel the best with the same thing that you mentioned. But like I love going against 200, 220 that
because in jiu-jitsu the weight doesn't get amplified in the sport. Like the weight is just the weight. Right? If you can leg press 220 and you can bench 220, then you can train with a guy who's 220. That's easy. They're not going to hurt you.
And I mean there is a truth that lightweights and middleweights in jiu-jitsu, and the same is true for judo. It's just like a lot more of them. That means if you want to be, you're just competing at a higher level. So like, there's much more variety of games. The level is much higher, so you're taking on a bigger challenge, even if you're like have a weight advantage. So those are all decisions you have to kind of make, and certainly in jiu-jitsu, people that are weight cutting are silly. I mean, that's the natural beginner thing to do, is to feel the way the nervousness about competition expresses itself is through the desire to be as light as possible, which is the totally wrong desire to have.
Right, like when you look at me now, I'm probably like 230, right? But I probably have the strength of a 70 kilo judo player.
Yeah.
Right? The weight doesn't really do much.
Yeah. I mean, you have the same thing with wrestling. Those skinny guys, the skinny you that we're looking at there, just the amount of power in that person is fascinating. Because it doesn't look like, you have some muscle, but it doesn't look, but I've felt the power of some of those people.
Yeah.
It's scary.
Yeah. It's
like,
different.
That's the best way I can describe it. It's like scary. It's like, oh shit. Again, it's the food chain. You're not at the top of the food chain.
Yeah.
You're close. That's the natural feeling when you go with some judo people.